Hello there. 8.2. These kind of issues that we're going to look at today, the matters of life issues, have only really been issues from the last sort of 40, 50 years, some even less than that, because of the nature of technology and how technology has advanced, even in medical circles. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at each of the ideas: artificial insemination, IVF, surrogacy, save your siblings, and genetic engineering. And we're going to look at the arguments for and against for each one of them. And what we're actually going to do is we're going to look at them from a non-religious, although religion may come into it, but we're going to look at them from non-specific religious points of view. And the reason for that is really just to see if we can get an idea of what the arguments for and against are before we start to bring religion in and say what religion is. So we're going to start with this one. You remember the picture, artificial insemination. And what it is, artificial insemination, is if a couple are unable to conceive, it may be a problem with the uterus of a woman's uterus or a man's sperm. And so what they're able to do is to actually take some of a man's sperm and inseminate it into a lady's uterus in order to enhance the chances of conceiving a child. And so artificial insemination happens in two forms, as you remember. One can happen with the husband's sperm, where they take as much of the husband's sperm as they possibly can, and they take out all the good swimmers, all the good sperm, and they inseminate that straight into a lady's uterus. Or artificial insemination by a donor, using donor sperm, if the husband has a very either no sperm count or an extremely low sperm count. Okay, here are the arguments for artificial insemination. Artificial insemination uses husband's sperm if it's AIH, so the procedure increases the chances of it happening. That's not a problem. That's number one. Number two, sperm can be stored and used at a later date to enable a man to become a father. If he's had to have an operation, or if for some reason the father can't be there anymore, that's something that can be used in the future if a lady would still like that as a possibility. A couple, gay or a homosexual or heterosexual couple, will be able to bring up their own child with love and happiness, even if that child is not conceived using the husband's sperm, so it's conceived using AID. Any child would first choice would be to come into a home which is loving and giving, and that's true of any of these ideas of matters of life. Finally, the religious one, I suppose, God has given humans the knowledge to develop the technology. And that's again is true for any of the procedures we're going to look at. God is able, if God has given us that knowledge, why don't we use it? Okay, arguments against. Now, arguments against. If artificial insemination by donor is used, the donor is a stranger, and it could be seen as having an affair, or mechanical adultery, I think some religious groups have called it. Artificial insemination by donor allows unmarried women or gay couples to have children and bring them up, and in today's world that's becoming less and less of a problem. However, some people still see that as wrong. A child may become upset when told their father is not their biological father. If artificial insemination by donor was used, then the father's sperm is not their actual biological father. That may cause problems. And in today's world, donors' identity cannot be kept secret. They have to tell, just in case there's any kind of genetic disorder that can be helped later on in life. You cannot keep a secret who it is if you give donor sperm. Those are our arguments for and against artificial insemination. Okay, IVF, in vitro fertilization. You remember that fertilization usually happens in the uterus. Okay, in utero fertilization. In vitro fertilization is just fertilization that happens in glass. IVF provides some childless couples. This is an argument for. Sorry, the argument's for first. With a child they can bring up in love and happiness, as we saw in the one before. Again, true of any of these procedures. In vitro fertilization provides a couple with a child of their own, using the husband's sperm and the mother's egg, enable them to actually love and care for their child. It's actually their own child. No other sperm or eggs is actually used. And also the key one really is it's helped millions of couples with little side effects. There are millions and millions of children now in this world. Since Louise Brown, you see a picture of Louise there in the 1960s, since she's the first IVF or test tube baby, millions and millions of babies across the world have given love and happiness and any number of different things to their parents and society. Arguments against in vitro fertilization. Conception doesn't happen in the womb, it happens in glass. That's what in vitro means, and many see that as unnatural, as not right. IVF often involves masturbation, that some people believe is wrong. Obviously, the sperm has to be removed from the husband in some way, or from the father. More than one egg is fertilized and frozen. If these fertilized eggs are not used and destroyed, some people see it as murder. And often in IVF, especially in the past, more than one embryo has been produced and sometimes been frozen and often later on discarded and not used. And some people say, well, if life begins at the moment of conception, then you're destroying a life. This procedure often, especially in the past, it's getting better, but has a low success rate and is very expensive. It gives people unrealistic hope about having a child. So some people believe it shouldn't happen because, it gives a childless couple unrealistic hope. There are many unwanted children in the world. We should encourage children to adopt. There's lots of people who want to, who have the opportunity to adopt children. So why do we make people have go through a very expensive, another argument against it, very expensive procedure when there's lots of opportunity for those for children to be adopted? Surrogacy, if you remember this picture here, surrogacy is where some women have a medical issue that makes it impossible for them to carry a child. So argument 4 is it gives them the opportunity to be a mum. Gay couples can become a parent by finding a woman who will become a child, who will carry a child for them. That's often a great opportunity for a loving relationship to actually be fostered by a male homosexual couple. Arguments against. The couple who use a surrogate mother may have to rely on the mother giving up the child. The birth mother has all the rights. That's the key thing we looked at in class when we looked at this. The mother who actually gives birth has all the rights. It can be very expensive. Often in this country, whilst it's illegal to actually pay a woman to carry a child for you, in America and in other places in the world, lots of people do that. But sometimes a couple will pay for the woman to actually live in a nice place and whilst she carries a child and all that kind of thing. Some people believe that you're using another woman for your happiness, so you're actually using another human being in order that you can be happy. And the sum total of happiness shouldn't be that you rely on other people to use other people for your happiness without their happiness being enhanced in some way. Finally, the biological mother cannot bond with the child in the womb. Some people believe it's using the woman as baby machines. The 9 months of pregnancy are seen by many as being some way of bonding with your child. And so that's often an argument against surrogacy. Okay, saviour siblings. Remember this picture of the first saviour sibling in the UK. Saviour siblings is a sibling that's born in order to save an older sibling's life, or if they have leukemia and need a bone marrow transplant, for example. The baby that's born to save the brother or sister will be loved. This is an argument for, and know they will have helped to save their sibling. And that's an important thing, an important reason for actually allowing the saviour sibling. The most loving thing to do for the sick child. I know, lots of parents will say that they will do anything to save their child, and even to have another child in order to help them to survive. And also, it takes a lot of money to actually care for a sick child. And so by doing that, you actually are saving a lot of money. They're saving a lot of money to actually help the sick child who needs the care. Okay, argument against saviour siblings. The child who grows up, will they often wonder, were they only born to save their brother or sister? That will be something that will be a dilemma for them throughout their whole life, and is brought up in this film, My Sister's Keeper. It's using a child as a means to an end, a bit like the surrogacy one. You're using, instead of using the woman as a means to help you out, you're using another sibling as a means to an end to actually fulfill a basic need to actually save the other child's life. Now, some procedures can actually cause pain to the donor. Taking bone marrow from a bone is quite a painful thing. So, whilst the baby is born to save the other sibling, do they actually have a choice in the painful procedure? And often the saviour sibling, the actual child, doesn't give its consent, doesn't agree to what's actually happened. And so, some people say that's an argument against being a saviour sibling. And finally, I do apologise, this is quite a long little video. The arguments for and against are very important, so you might want to just pause them. Genetic engineering, if you remember the ability to engineer genes, remember the spider goat, and how they create certain things from a goat and actually are able to bring a spider into it. Well, is the opportunity at the moment for that to be legal for humans to make maybe a superhuman? At the moment that's illegal in this country and across all of the world. So genetic engineering 4. We spend lots of money on education to make us more intelligent, exercise to make us fitter, diets to make us healthier. Why can't we improve all of that through genetics? Surely that will be something to save money in the future. It gives children the best start in life. If their genes are good, then obviously they're going to be better in the future. We use these techniques on crops to improve yield and on animals. Why not humans? What makes us different? That's all we are, is just an animal. So what if we use it on animals now? Why can't we use it on ourselves? Isn't it just giving evolution a helping hand? Helping us to actually get better, to grow stronger, to be fitter? People who are stronger, more intelligent and more attractive are also going to be happier. So the population is going to grow up into a much happier population to enable people to actually be more fulfilled. Okay, here's our argument against. Equality is the first one. You're undermining the very important principle that all human beings are equal, especially a religious principle in the eyes of God, whatever their look, strength or intelligence. Will it mean in the future that people get better jobs if they've been genetically engineered? Will they get easier opportunities to get life insurance and home insurance and all those things, whereas other people have to pay more? Is it you're playing God and interfering with God's creation? If there, even if there isn't, people believe there isn't a God, is it in some way getting into nature and messing with it? And is that going to cause problems? It's unnatural, you see. Many people believe that number 3, it's unnatural. It's what's called eugenics, improving human beings by only reproducing the best, and that certainly wasn't something that Nazi Germany was very sensible in doing, and their idea of the Aryan race. Okay, during World War II, and this blonde-haired, blue-eyed, perfect person, is that what we're going to be doing in genetic engineering? And somehow our imperfections actually make us stronger. And also, the technology eventually could be misused. It could be actually used to create armies and things like that keep everybody at bay. Kind of idea, I suppose, behind your Star Wars and the Clone Wars. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, those matters of life, and always in these things, the key thing is that you've got to make your own mind up. So there's the arguments, some of the arguments for and against. You may be able to think of a few more. So, at the end of the day, GCSEers, what do you think?